Hello, SKs. It is a wet and gloomy day outside today, just perfect for settling down with a lovely book. So I'm ready to start with Charlotte's Web, Chapter 13, Good Progress. Far into the night, while the other creatures slept, Charlotte worked on her web. First, she ripped out a few of the orb lines near the center. She left the radial lines alone, as they were needed for support. As she worked, her 8 legs were a great help to her, and so were her teeth. She loved to weave, and she was expert at it. When she was finished ripping things out, her web looked something like this. And there's her web. The orbital lines are the ones that go around, and the radial lines are the ones that go from the center out. Do you see it from there? A spider can produce several kinds of thread. She uses a dry, tough thread for foundation lines, and she uses a sticky thread for snare lines, the ones that catch and hold insects. Charlotte decided to use her dry thread for writing a new message. If I write the word terrific with sticky thread, she thought to herself, every bug that comes along will get stuck in it and spoil the effect. Now let's see. The first letter is T. Remember, she's writing the word terrific. Charlotte climbed to a point at the top of the left-hand side of the web. Swinging her spinnerets into position, she attached her thread and then dropped down. As she dropped, her spinning tubes went into action and she let out her thread. At the bottom, she attached the thread. This formed the upright part of her T. But Charlotte wasn't satisfied. She climbed up and made another attachment right next to the first. Then she carried the line down so that she had a double line instead of a single. That will show up much better if I make the whole thing with double lines. She climbed back up, moved about an inch to the left, touched her spinnerets to the web, and then carried a line across to the right, forming the top of the T. She repeated this, making it double. Her 8 legs were very busy helping. All right, now for the E. Charlotte got so interested in her work, she began to talk to herself, as though to cheer herself on. If you had been sitting quietly in the barn cellar that evening, you would have heard something like this. Now for the R. Up we go, attach, descend, pay out the line, whoa, attach. Good, up you go, and repeat. Attach, descend, pay out the line, whoa, girl, steady now. Attach, climb, attach, over to the right, pay out the line, attach. Now right and down and swing that loop and around and around. Now into the left, attach, climb, repeat, okay. Easy, keep those lines together. Now then, out and down for the leg of the R. Pay out the line. Whoa, attach, ascend, repeat. Good girl. And that's how she made her R. And so, talking to herself, the spider worked at her difficult task. When it was completed, she felt hungry, so she ate a small bug that she had been saving off to the side, and then she slept. The next morning, Wilbur arose and stood beneath the web. He breathed the morning air into his lungs. Drops of dew catching the sun made the web stand out clearly. When Lurvy arrived with breakfast, there was the handsome pig, and over him, woven neatly in block letters, there was the word terrific. Another miracle. Wilbur looks very pleased with himself. Well, Lurvy rushed and called Mr. Zuckerman. Mr. Zuckerman rushed and called Mrs. Zuckerman, and Mrs. Zuckerman ran to the phone and called the Arables. The Arables climbed right into their truck and hurried over. Everybody stood at the pig pen and stared at the web and read the word over and over, while Wilbur, who really did feel terrific, stood quietly swelling out his chest and swinging his snout from side to side. Terrific, breathed Zuckerman in joyful admiration. Edith, you'd better phone the reporter on the Weekly Chronicle and tell him what's happened. He's going to want to know about this. He may even want to bring a photographer out. Why, there isn't a pig in the whole state that's as terrific as this pig. Of course, the news spread. People who had journeyed to see Wilbur when he was some pig came back again to see him now that he was terrific. That afternoon, when Mr. Zuckerman went to milk the cows and clean the tie-ups, he was still thinking about what a wondrous pig he owned. "Lurvy," he called out suddenly, "there's to be no more cow manure thrown down into that pig pen. I have a terrific pig, and I want that pig to have clean, bright straw every day for his bedding. Understand?" "Oh, yes, sir," said Lurvy. "Furthermore," said Mr. Zuckerman, "I want you to start building a crate for Wilbur. I've decided I'm going to take that pig to the county fair on September 6th. Make the crate large and paint it green. Gold letters on it." "Well, what should the letters say, sir?" asked Lurvy. "They should say, Zuckerman's Famous Pig." Lurvy picked up a pitchfork and walked away to get some clean straw. Having such an important pig was going to mean plenty of extra work. He could see that now. Below the apple orchard, at the end of a path, was the dump where Mr. Zuckerman threw all sorts of trash and stuff that nobody wanted anymore. Here, in a small clearing hidden by young alders and wild raspberry bushes, was an astonishing pile of old bottles and empty tin cans, dirty rags and bits of metal, broken bottles, broken hinges, broken springs, dead batteries, last month's magazines, and old discarded mops. Templeton knew the dump, and he liked it. There were lots of good hiding places there, excellent cover for a rat, and there was usually a tin can with food still clinging to the inside. Templeton was down there now, rummaging around. When he returned to the barn, he carried in his mouth an advertisement that he'd torn from a crumpled magazine. "How's this?" he asked, showing the ad to Charlotte. It says Crunchy." "Crunchy, exactly. That would be an excellent word to write in your web." "Oh, no, I think that's just the wrong idea," replied Charlotte. "It couldn't be worse. We don't want Zuckerman to think Wilbur is crunchy. He might start thinking about crisp, crunchy bacon and tasty ham. Well, that would put ideas into his head, wouldn't it? No, we must advertise Wilbur's noble qualities, not his nastiness. Go get another word, please, Templeton." The rat looked disgusted, but he sneaked away to the dump and was back in a while with a strip of cotton cloth. "How's this?" he asked. "It's a label off an old shirt." Charlotte examined the label. It said, "Pre-shrunk." "Oh, no, I'm sorry, Templeton," she said, "but pre-shrunk is out of the question. We want Zuckerman to think Wilbur is nicely filled out, not all shrunk up. Oh, I'm afraid I have to ask you to try again." "What do you think I am, some kind of messenger?" grumbled the rat. "I'm not going to spend all my time chasing to the dump after advertising material." "Oh, just once more, please," said Charlotte. "Tell you what I'll do," said Templeton. "I know there's a package of soap flakes in the woodshed. That's got some writing on it. I'll bring you a piece of that package." He climbed the rope that hung on the wall and disappeared through a hole in the ceiling. When he came back, he had a strip of blue and white cardboard in his teeth. "There," he said triumphantly. "How's that?" Charlotte read the words. "With new, radiant action." "Well, I wonder what that means," asked Charlotte, who had never used soap in her life. "How should I know?" said Templeton. "You asked for words and I brought them. I suppose the next thing you're going to want is me to bring you a dictionary." Together they studied the soap advertisement. "With new, radiant action," repeated Charlotte slowly. "Wilbur," she called. Wilbur, who was asleep in the straw, jumped up. "Run around," commanded Charlotte. "I want to see you in action, to see if you're radiant." Wilbur raced to the end of his yard. "Now back again, faster this time," said Charlotte. Wilbur galloped back. His skin shone. His tail had a fine, tight curl in it. "Now jump into the air," cried Charlotte. Wilbur jumped as high as he could. "Keep your knees straight and touch the ground with your ears," called Charlotte. Wilbur obeyed. "Now a backflip with a half twist in it," cried Charlotte. Wilbur went over backwards, wreathing and twisting as he went. "Okay, Wilbur," said Charlotte. "You can go back to sleep now." "All right, Templeton. This advertisement will do, I guess. I'm not sure Wilbur's action is exactly radiant, but it's certainly interesting." "Well, actually," said Wilbur, "I feel radiant." "Do you?" said Charlotte, looking at the little pig with affection. "Well, you are a good little pig, and radiant you shall be. I'm in this thing pretty deep now. I might as well go to the limit." Tired from his romping about, Wilbur lay down in the clean straw. He closed his eyes. The straw seemed scratchy, not as comfortable as the cow manure, which was always delightfully soft to lie in. So he pushed the straw to one side and stretched out in the manure. Wilbur sighed. It'd been a busy day, his first day of being terrific. Dozens of people had visited his yard during the afternoon, and he had to stand and pose, looking as terrific as he could. And now he was tired. Fern had arrived and seated herself quietly on her stool in the corner. "Tell me a story, Charlotte," said Wilbur, as he lay waiting for sleep to come. "Would you tell me a story?" So Charlotte, although she too was tired, did as Wilbur asked. "Once upon a time," she began, "I had a beautiful cousin who managed to build her web across a small stream. One day, a tiny fish leaped into the air and got tangled in the web. My cousin was very much surprised, of course. The fish was thrashing wildly. My cousin hardly dared tackle it, but she got up her courage, and she did. She swooped down and threw great masses of wrapping material all around the fish and fought bravely to capture it. There is the fish caught in the web. Imagine seeing that. "Did she succeed?" asked Wilbur. "Well, it was a never-to-be-forgotten battle," said Charlotte. "There was the fish, caught only by one fin, and its tail wildly thrashing and shining in the sun. And there was the web, sagging dangerously under the weight of the fish." "How much did the fish weigh?" asked Wilbur eagerly. "I don't know," said Charlotte. "There was my cousin, slipping in, dodging out, beaten mercilessly over the head by the wildly thrashing fish, dancing in, dancing out, throwing her threads and fighting hard. First, she threw a left around the tail. The fish lashed back. Then a left to the tail and a right to the midsection. The fish lashed back. Then she dodged to one side and threw a right and another right to the fin, and then a hard left to the head, while the web swayed and stretched. And then what happened?" asked Wilbur. "Nothing," said Charlotte. "The fish lost the fight. My cousin wrapped it up so tight it couldn't budge." "And then?" asked Wilbur. "Well, nothing," said Charlotte. "My cousin kept the fish for a while, and then, when she got good and ready, she ate it." "Tell me another story," begged Wilbur. So Charlotte told him about another cousin of hers who was an aeronaut. "What's an aeronaut?" asked Wilbur. "A balloonist," said Charlotte. "My cousin used to stand on her head and let out enough thread to form a balloon, and then she'd let go and be lifted into the air and carried upward on the warm wind." "Is it true?" asked Wilbur. "Or are you just making it up?" "It's quite true," replied Charlotte. "I have some very remarkable cousins. And now, Wilbur, it's time you went to sleep." "Sing something," begged Wilbur, who was still a very young pig, and he closed his eyes. So Charlotte sang a lullaby, while crickets chirped in the grass and the barn grew dark, and this was the song she sang. "Sleep, sleep, my love, my only deep, deep in the dung and the dark. Be not afraid and be not lonely. This is the hour when frogs and thrushes praise the world from the woods and the rushes. Rest from care, my one and only, deep in the dung and dark. By the time she was done, Wilbur was already asleep. And when the song had finished, Fern got up and went home. And that's the end of chapter 13.